Yes, ladies and gentlemen, staying in front of your customers with the phone. Go ahead, make their day without AI. This is Jim Nowakowski on behalf of Interline Creative Group. We're here to talk about the most powerful instrument in the world, the phone. Yes, it's not just for texting, it's not just for emailing, not just for browsing, it's for phone calling. This course has been approved by the AIA. They reviewed it and said A-OK. It's been reviewed by the IDCEC. It's basically, this is the Interior Designers Association, and it's also been reviewed by the NKBA. So these three fine organizations have reviewed this course and approved it, and we're very excited to be presenting to you. If you have questions, put them in send me an email, Jim@Interline Group, or put them in the chat box. We're glad you're here. This is copyright 2025. And if you don't, I don't want you taking screenshots. So what I'll do is if you send me an email when we're done, I will send you a PDF file of all these slides. It'll give you some good ideas on how to use the phone. Okay, you ready? This program is going to discuss how architects, designers, and other professionals in our audience today get a better understanding of the market by calling. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, phone calling. I know. The dreaded cold call. We don't like to call, right? We'd rather text. It's easier. Or just send an email. Just send an email. One of the things I insist in our company is get on the phone. Call the customer. Get on the phone. Don't just send emails. Sometimes you send emails, but when a crisis arises, when something happens, you should get on that phone. So phone techniques are important to develop. So what we're going to do is review business basics because, ladies and gentlemen, business hasn't changed. Business technology has changed. We're all carrying iPhones, right? Android phones, but technology has not changed. I mean, technology has changed, but business basics hasn't changed. It's early in the morning. That's what's going on. I want you to discover the power of customer relationships using the phone and developing some helpful listening techniques. You know, the voice is very expressive, isn't it? See how I can just lower my voice and suddenly it changes the tone of what I'm doing? Rather than every day insult them. You don't want to talk like that. You don't want to be a zombie, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to learn how to respond to particular needs and requirements. If you Google powerlessness in organizations, and that's why they fail at customer service, you'll get this blog that I wrote years ago on an experience. I had an employee who retired, and I called up our Simple Plan administrator, which was a very, very big company. You can read the blog. This is a multi-billion-dollar company. And I told them to stop depositing into the employee's account because he's retiring. That was in August. So in November, the employee, around Thanksgiving, I was talking to the employee and he said, "Why are you still giving me money in my Simple Plan when I retired?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, I'm still getting money." I said, "Oh." So I called up this big organization that we had partnered with for the Simple Plan. And he says, "Oh my God, let me look into this." He looked into it. It was he said, "It's our fault entirely, Jim. We're going to fix it immediately." And a couple of hours later, he called me out of breath. You can read about it on the blog, and he couldn't do it. And this was phone calls, ladies and gentlemen, not emails. So he says, I'm powerless. Usually I'm a fixer. He called himself a fixer, but he couldn't do it. So I said, "What should I do?" He said, "Call the 800 number, the dreaded 800 number." And you've all experienced this, where you get into these logic loops and you cannot be helped, regardless of whether it's a part for your washer or whatever you're talking about. There's very few companies that respond with human beings instantly. I know Delta Faucet is one of them. I'm not plugging them, but if you have a Delta faucet, they pretty much will take care of you no matter what happens to your faucet. That's very rare in business. So anyway, long story short, I called the 800 number, went into a logic loop, and it was only $1,500 for, that I had to do it. But the amount of pain that you felt, that I felt on the other end of the line with these people who couldn't solve the problem in their big billion-dollar, trillion-dollar organization. They were billion. The bank where my employee was banking was $1 trillion, and somehow they had to open up the bank account again and move them up. Blah, 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 blah. I said I would have fixed this thing in 10 minutes because I would have given back the person the money, right? And then figured out how to get the money back. That's what you do. So the phone is very important. Today, 98% of people own cell phones. You can get their cell phone number. You can talk to your clients. One of the things we pride ourselves on is answering the phone in 2 rings. You can call our main number anytime during business hours, and someone will answer that in 2 rings. Otherwise, hell will be paid. The average adult spends 4 hours on the mobile. That's not talking, that's using it for texting, things like that. And on average, people they check their phones 144 times a day. Holy mackerel. But they don't use it as a phone call thing, right? We just don't use it as phone calls, but we should. With the internet phone, I remember when they invented internet phones, VOC, they used to call it, right? Voice of the customer. But when you're hooking up internet phones, everybody remember the early days of internet phones? What a pain in the butt, wasn't it? It still is sometimes, depending on where you're calling from. In any case, the phone, everybody, Gen Z, look at the last bullet. Gen Z was born with a phone in their hand. There's a blog about that. So, what we don't want to do is we don't want to forget that service is the key. The phone is an integral tool for service. You always want to be cross-selling, always be closing, listen for opportunities. Listening is a lost art. We're going to go through some examples in this webinar on listening. Very important to listen. And even if you hear an opportunity for another business, you should share it with that business. Don't just hold it to yourself, because networking is the key to relationships. Business basics. How many customers do you have? Somebody in the audience, I can hear him now, hear her now. Not enough, Jim. Well, that's the trick question, because you could have too many. How is it possible? Well, it's possible because if you can't service your customers properly, you're going to lose customers. You understand what I'm talking about? You're in the service business, you're in the product manufacturing business, whatever you are doing, if you cannot service your customers, if you cannot help them when they call, they will feel powerless. And the only thing you overcome with powerless is power. You need the power to help people in whatever you do. So the next question is, how many do you want? How many customers do you want? Well, I want as many as I can get. Really? Well, the other question is, how many can you handle? That's the truth. If you're a 5-person firm, you handle a certain volume. And my blog on powerlessness showed you that even with, I think they had 3,100 employees, they can't handle my problem. They could not handle my problem. Till today, when I think about that, and those negative experiences stick with you. They stick with you. The other 2 questions to answer are, what are your short and long-term goals? You need to write these goals down. If you're a small business, even if you're a big business, look at what big business does these days. The amount of money and inefficiency in not having core competencies and goals. We're a small company, over 30 years old, and our goals have not changed. One of our sayings is, we sell or else. That was David Ogilvy. And that hasn't changed. We have 2 pillars, service and unduplicated knowledge. The second pillar is hard to do with AI, but the first is, it's 24 hours in a day. That's all you have. That's all I have. That's all anyone has. You don't have 25th hour. The final thing I want to call your attention to is that the phone can drive these answers up despite the virus. Despite any virus, we're going to get another one, who knows? But despite business conditions, your phone is your friend. I like that. Your phone is your friend. So who's here today? I want to welcome everybody. You don't need a mask on this webinar. Isn't that nice? Okay. Even if some people wear masks, you don't need them on the phone. It's your phone. It's your phone. I got another story I could tell you, but I'm not going to tell you about that. So the dreaded phone call, we all hate phone calls. Do I have to call them? Oh my God, I don't want to call them. So are you listening? Are you listening? Think about this. The human voice is so expressive. Besides, you can tell when someone's smiling. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. You remember, what is it? Tom, I forgot her name now, but she was a comedian. Is this the person that I'm talking to? She used to have a skit where she was playing an operator. And what's interesting about the phone is that you can, in fact, reach anyone on this phone through voicemails, leave enough voicemails. We're going to talk about this. Curiosity may kill cats, but it really opens the doors. Whenever you have a question, I have yet to be disappointed when I contact somebody and I need help. Professionals like architects, designers, so on, manufacturers, salespeople are ready to help you as long as you're not obnoxious. So you should get a script, because the secret of cold calling, I'm going to give you the secret, ladies and gentlemen, write it down. The secret to cold calling is doing research before you call. Nailing down your script, but getting off of it as soon as possible. In other words, becoming intimate with the target. Know your target. If you've ever watched any hitman movies, they study the target before they shoot, right? That's what cold calling is. It's not dialing for dollars. Let's call 100 people at once. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about carefully planned phone calls. And to do that, you need research. You need to know what the hell you're talking about. And just dial and start practicing. Focus on starting a conversation, not making a sale. I used to, one of the people that worked for me for years was an empath. Do you know what an empath is? If you've ever seen Star Trek, the empath is not sympathy, it's empathy. It's the ability to take on the feelings of the person you're talking to. She would get a person on the phone, and in 15 minutes later, she would know about his appendix operation. She had tremendous ability to connect. And I'm not saying you have to do that with every phone call, but if you're a trained listener, you will have that ability to become an empath. It's not about you, it's about them. So you grab their attention by stating your purpose. You don't say, "Hey, how you doing?" How you doing today? That's a great way to get hung up on, isn't it? I'm calling you because I looked at your website and I noticed something, or I'm calling you because I saw you're working on a project or you see you're grabbing their attention. You acknowledge objections instead of dismissing them. No, I don't have time for you. I understand that. Is there a better time to call you? No. Bang, if he hangs up. All right. Well, you're going to get hung up on sometimes, but that's not true if you approach this correctly. And you got to know the timing of this, like early morning. If you're the higher level the call, the more likely it is to hit them early in the morning or late at night, because that's when those people are at their desks. Otherwise, they're busy putting out fires, going to meetings. You understand? You flip objections with questions of your own. We'll talk about some of these techniques. We just don't have the budget. Well, if you don't have the budget now, are you on a fiscal? When is your fiscal year up? What do you budget your marketing for now in the case of us? Or what do you budget now for? Depending on what you're doing, you got to have this laid out before you call. Show empathy, open-ended questions. Prepare, practice, prepare. Michael Jordan didn't become a great player by shooting one basket a day, right? And a no is not personal. No, no, Jim, I just don't have it. Example, whenever we fail, we call up, we get on the phone. If we don't get the budget, right? If we don't get the project, we call them up and we ask them why. That's a technique you have to use always. If you don't get the project, you call up and you got to find out why. You got to find out why. Example, it called up, we were a $31,000 research project, called up, the lady said, the prospect said, no, 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 you had the most comprehensive plan. You were the most comprehensive. I said, oh, so was it the price? No, 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 you were very competitive. So I said, if it wasn't the price and we had the most comprehensive plan, what was it? Well, we wanted something more superficial. Well, I said, thank you very much, hung up, and I jumped for joy because we don't do superficial. Now, that could have been just a line, right? It could have been just a line. I blogged about this as well. The 7 questions you should ask when you lose a pitch. One of my most famous blogs. It gets read a lot by, believe it or not, lawyers, because I guess lawyers lose a lot. Besides, no is the beginning of how a sale begins. There's a great book, The Sale Begins When the Customer Says No. Bob Stone is often referred to as the father of direct marketing, and he had a 5-step process for using the phone because direct marketers use the phone. They have a win-loss ratio. I'm not saying you have to have a win-loss ratio. His 5-step selling process was pre-call planning. That's what I was telling you. Research, research, research. Approach and position. Get to the point. Who are you? Why are you bothering me? Says the prospect, because they don't want to be interrupted. A lot of times you got to go through a gatekeeper. There's a technique for getting through gatekeepers, which comes from practice as well. Your objective is to get the person talking so you can listen. That's the key statement from Bob Stone. Get the person talking. You want to be a listener, not a talker. As my great salesman friend, Tickle said, you can't learn anything by talking, right? You cannot learn anything by talking, right? Find the decision maker. Are you barking up the wrong tree? Is this the wrong person? Don't neglect the gatekeeper, etc., and prepare solutions. Sometimes this is really Bob's statement, one call won't cut it. I'm going to tell you right now, in business to business, one call never cuts it. One call ain't going to do it. Ain't going to do it. It's multiple calls, and it's an integrated strategy with phone calls, emails, mail, whatever it's going to take. And we're going to give you an example of that. So what does it take? Well, to be yourself. Don't try to be someone else, unless you're a good actor, but be yourself. You're all unique. Look at your fingerprints. You're all different. Well, Jim, there's a lot of people out there, super salesmen. Well, you don't have to be a super salesman. Just be yourself and be genuine. The word today is authentic. What does that mean? It means be real. Every day in South America, Jim. You don't be like that. Voice quality. You should record yourself. I listen to my recordings all the time. I know exactly how I sound. I have a Chicago accent, right? I'm not going to try to get rid of that, but I can also talk very sophisticated. No, 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 no. You don't want to do that. Know your win-loss ratio. You're going to make a certain amount of calls and be rejected. So get used to that. But remember, in every rejection, there's a learning. You're going to learn something. This is not dialing for dollars. Win-loss ratio, if you're dialing for dollars, sometimes a telemarketer has to make 100 calls, right, to get one. Sometimes 29 calls to get one. And because this is not a one-call business, it's a multiple call business, you don't count the leave messages as a call. You're just leaving a message. You haven't talked to the prospect. It takes a long time to get a piece of business. Most of your business, ladies and gentlemen, comes from referrals. Am I right? Well, what do you do after you get that referral? Do you call and thank the person? Script or not to script? Have a script. I'm a firm believer in scripts, and then I'm a firm believer in throwing them away once you get on the phone. Your objective is to build rapport, to build empathy with the person. Because nobody who wants to be sold. We all want to be sold something as long as it's not something that I really don't need. So, what does the person need? Not what he wants. We all want a lot of things. What does he need? And unfortunately, you don't know when you're picking up that cold call that the person really needs what you're selling. So, your ability to navigate to find out what he needs, what she needs, is important. And if you do your research, you already know. You already know what they may need by doing your research, and I'm going to prove it to you. And then project, jump on stage. Jump on stage, be an actor, right? Practice makes perfect. It makes you Michael Jordan. If you hesitate, you can kill a deal. I'm not saying you can't use silence, but Dale Carnegie knew what he was talking about. We should read Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's still a great book. Knowing a person, calling them by their first name is a key thing. Sometimes people say, "How did you remember me?" I say, "Well, you got to practice." And sometimes you forget their name, and there's no harm in saying, "What was your name again?" But if you do that, holy mackerel, that could kill the deal, isn't it? Don't criticize, condemn, complain, be a provider. Early in my career, that's what one of my clients told me. "Jim, you're a provider." What does that mean? Well, whatever the problem was, we figured it out. For one client, we were actually manufacturing, don't laugh, we were manufacturing metal plates in China for this manufacturer. We sourced that out. Now, what the hell does that have to do with marketing? Nothing, except it is marketing. I'm a provider. If I'm a provider, I'm trying to help you. If I can't help you, I should have a network of people who can help you with whatever problem you have. I was talking to an architect the other day, and he says, I'm like every other architect. I don't know what the hell you're gonna, differentiate me with." After a half hour of talking to him, he not only believed he was different than other architects, he proved it to himself by me just drilling him with questions. He was majoring in, his majoring. He was specializing in educational facilities. And by the time we finished in a half hour, I showed him like the four things he did differently than other architects with educational facilities. That's what you're doing. You're looking for differentiation on the phone, not just of yourself, but of the person you're aiming at. So you have to be sincere. If you're not sincere, don't finish the webinar. Are there any insincere people in the audience? Of course, no one's going to admit that they're insincere. But where's your passion? Where's your oomph? Where's your belief in not only yourself, but in your company's ability to solve problems? That has to come through when you're talking to people. Sometimes there's silence on the phone and you say, "Are you still there?" Right? They're thinking sometimes. They're thinking sometimes. Create an eager want. You can't fool Mother Nature. You cannot fool people. Try this. You're talking to someone and then you don't even hear it in their voice. You hear it in their voice that they're looking at their computer or they're doing something else on their desk. You can hear it in their voice. What do you do when that happens? Do you continue to talk? "Hey, well, I just wanted to tell you." Do you continue to talk? Or do you say, "Look it, I can see you're involved in something else. Is there a better time to call?" That technique that I just told you works every time. Every time, because they know you're listening to them. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the key. Listening and then responding to what you hear. and being genuinely interested in what you hear, not fading off into the sunset in your thoughts. So, what is cold calling? Well, it's picking up the phone. But remember, cold calling and what we're talking about is doing your research ahead of time. Look at the statistics 2% cold call conversion rates. What's conversion into a customer, right? 2%? Ladies and gentlemen, that's normal in direct response. You mail 100 out, you get 10 back, that's 10%. Usually it's 2%, even with email blasting, right? On average, it takes 18 or more dials to reach a technical prospect with a cold call. Think about I'm giving you these statistics to make you feel good because it's not picking up the phone and saying a sale. You know, a lot of salespeople think, just give me the sale. Forget about the research behind the sale. That is the kiss of death. They believe, it's not a matter of get them in, get them out, get some more. People say it's about a volume call. Well, if you're selling Snuggies, it is. Or if you're selling online on Amazon, it is. But not everybody needs a Snuggie. What are you selling? Those are questions you got to ask yourself. Look at this, the percentage of sales personnel who give up. Are you one of these? Are you in? If you get rejected, that's it. Cold calling, that's crap. I, I remember talking to one prospect about that. We went in there to pitch, and he was selling a very specialized product that only contractors who did, let me think, what special type of wiring, a very, very defined audience. And he said direct mail doesn't work. And I said, well, of course it does. What do you mean it does? I tried it once and it never works. Well, of course it works. It works because you have a defined audience. It doesn't work when you're spraying and praying and you got zillions of customers. A niche market, if you've got a defined audience, I can guarantee you direct mail will work, right? And if you have a defined audience, you've done your research, and let's say you contact somebody and you get rejected because that person doesn't need what you're selling that day, and you give up and you say cold calling never works, well, that's just stupid. Of course it works. That person just didn't need you. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Pick up the phone and call somebody, call another one. And when you research people, you're always learning about a specific market. It's not just a one and done. 69% of buyers say that they accepted a call from a new salesperson within the 12 months. This is good news. Who's a buyer? Well, that's maybe a buyer of Snuggies, right? But it could be a buyer of what you're selling, the services you're selling. Besides, when you're trying to sell a service, you're not going in there to say, hey, look, I got this service. Would you like to buy it? Done your research and you're looking at your prospect, and we're going to go with an example in a moment, and you're coming in from a point of view of you already know that they need what you're selling. It's just a matter of connecting the dots. When's the best time to call? In cold calling, right? 4 to 5 p.m. or 7 to 8 p.m. in the morning. That early, Jim? Who gets up that early? Executives with drive get up that early, right? And if not, their gatekeepers are at that phone. If not, their voicemail is on that phone. 48% of cold calls end without an attempt to close the sale. What does that mean? They don't ask for the order. They don't ask for another meeting. I'm constantly talking to people who are trying to sell me stuff, and one of their famous lines is, when can we set up the next meeting? That's what they're trying to close the call. They read that off the script. When they don't want to let go, instead of saying perhaps, is there a better time? Or when, instead of saying when would you like to connect, I would like to call you again in a couple of weeks if that would be all right. But in the meantime, I'd like to send you something to think about. You be positive, but you don't always follow the script. When's the next time we can contact you? 49% of buyers prefer to be contacted through phone calls. Think about this. Why? Why is that? Oh, Jim, what about the other half who don't want to ever be called? Well, great. Send them an email. But if you don't use the phone, you're missing out on half of the audience who want to talk to you. I'm not saying the world's lonely. I'm just saying that the human voice is a beautiful, expressive thing, isn't it? The average cold calling rate is 20 to 30%, maybe. Smile. Smile. Even on the phone. Can you tell I'm smiling now, ladies and gentlemen? Can you tell? Of course you can tell. And remember the person's name. It's the sweetest, that's Dale Carnegie, most important sound in any language. Listen, talk about what the person has an interest in, and make that target feel important. Play back what they said to you and take notes. Excuse me, I have never, do you mind if I take some notes while we talk? I have never, in all the years I've been doing this, ever had someone say, yes, I mind if you take notes. They always say, of course I don't. Why do they say, of course I don't? If you ask somebody, do you mind if I take notes? I have clients now when we're on the phone doing a conference call. They tell me, Jim, are you going to be taking copious notes? Why is that? Well, because if you're taking notes, you're interested in what's being said. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, let's do a case history together. Butters Group, this is a random thing for this presentation. I picked a random thing. This is a commercial design, build, development, property management firm with 10 million square feet of commercial space in South Florida. Now, you know, and I know the commercial industry, the space industry, right? Commercial space it's really difficult. It's in disruption because of COVID. Still, there's a lot of empty space out there, but this group manages that. And I'm an architect or an interior designer, and I want to get in front of these people. Now, I'm using this because most of the audience is architects and interior designers, but you can do this case history on anything. If you're a manufacturer, you can do this on reaching architects, on facility managers, or whatever you sell, as long as it's not Snuggies. This is not Snuggies. This is business to business, right? When Snuggies, it's a one-off, right? But with business to business, it's not, you don't buy one Snuggie, you buy 500 sometimes for a building. This is big business, very difficult business, which is why you have to do your homework. So anyway, this Butters Group is down in South Florida. So if you want them as a customer, and the way you pick Butters Group is you go on and you figure out who's your niche. You look at your own customer file, right? You look at your own customers and say, this is where I specialize. And then step one is to research their business. I told you that. And identify the right targets. And that's what you do. You're filtering. Well, Jim, I want to talk to everybody. You can't talk to everybody. You can't certainly serve everybody. We went through that earlier in this webinar. You have to define your audience. You only have so many hours in the day. So you want to understand 4 areas. Their recent projects, their property types, and you can do this as you filter very quickly, just to look at websites. You know, ladies and gentlemen, your website is the most important marketing tactic, and I have yet to see any company in the world put stuff on their website that makes them look bad, right? They're all bragging about themselves. So take advantage of what they put on their website. It's like an unbelievable invitation to find out about them. It's unbelievable. Just examine it. Look at what they say, how they say it. Look at Butters Group recent projects, the types of property, unique elements of their design. Read their blogs if they have a blog, right? Read their news. Review their portfolio on their website and LinkedIn. You know, ladies and gentlemen, and you're saying, Jim, what has this got to do with the phone call? Everything. This is the research in front of the phone call. Before you pick up the phone, you have to do this research. Well, it takes a lot of time, Jim. I just don't have the time. Well, then you're out of luck. You ain't going to be successful. Successful people take the time to learn about their targets. Successful, if you're going to use the phone, maybe you hire people to do that. It doesn't really matter. Whoever is doing this has to do this research. Unless you're Mozart and pick it up and you start talking, oh, okay, I'll buy some. Used to have a client when salespeople for advertising would come in and they would say, wow, I like your vest. And boom, they'd get a $10,000 schedule. Sorry. I've never been that lucky. I like the way you look. Oh, here's $10,000. Anyway, review their portfolio and website and LinkedIn and the specific opportunities where your skills can help them. You have skills. You have skills. Here's what you do. Butters, go, here's their website. These are their property group, this is their everything is from their website. And then you hop in LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, they've got a page. Most companies have a page. They tell you who they are, right? It's one LinkedIn is God's gift to people who want to make phone calls. It's the research tool. If you go there and you pick people, they tell you they're people. Isn't this wonderful? They're giving you your targets. You can click on them, look at them. If you use Sales Navigator, which is the higher end LinkedIn, you can get a profound and you can start contacting them through LinkedIn. I don't recommend that at first. Remember, we're using this to gather information about the people in order to make our phone call. You can always do this. You can always do this. But I'm talking about phone calls. And who do you call? Well, here they are. Chief Financial Officer, right? Look at Service Vice President. That's a nice target. And then you would research everyone, not every one of them, but the ones you want to call. You have your choice. You go back on their website and you look at their projects and you look at what? Their property listings and their news. This is the news. Remember what I told you. People are not going to put up bad news. They put up only good news. And so you look at their news and you read some of their articles and you say, okay, let's look at this. And read about it. Start drawing up a dossier on these people, on this company. What did they do? Because each one of these is a lead-in to a phone call. You're not going to use all of them. You're going to use some of them. So, for example, hi, Mr. Butters. This is Jim Nowakowski calling. I was wondering, do you use marketing services? You see how bland that is? You see how I could hello, Mr. Butters. I was looking at your Woodmont Butters partnership where you started leasing 75,000 square foot industrial properties, and I'm doing some research on industrial properties for a client. I was wondering if you have a minute so I can find out what happened and how did you get that fully leased. Can you help me? Do you see the difference? Do you see the difference? And I just made that up just right now. I didn't study this. I'm going to show you what I did study. They bought a pair of Miami-Dade development sites for $41 million. They bought a development site for $41 million. Congratulations. Look, Mr. Butters, I'm not saying it's Mr. Butters, it's one of the contacts, right? But Mr. Butters, I saw you I saw you purchase the $41 million. I'm going to talk about this. You take these little jewels, they're jewels to get you on the phone to start talking to these people and get them, remember, you're not talking, you want them to talk to you, right? So look at 30 years experience. You go to down here, their expertise. This is what they do. Construction. They're a brokerage. They manage properties. They build. They're a design build firm, and they acquire and they investment. You can go to Google. Ladies and gentlemen, never, ever neglect Google or whatever you're using, right? Edge, whatever you're using. Butters Group construction projects going on now. That's what I typed in Google because I'm aiming at Butters. And look at what they give me. Butters Group is currently active constructing projects, including the West Atlantic Business Center in Delray Beach, Florida. Focused on warehouse and distributions. So right there is a key. Do you know what's going on in warehouse and distribution space today? Everything. Right? Look at who's building warehouses all over the place. Look at this. This is AI. Again, AI is changing our world, right? AI tells me this. They give me, look at the Miami-Dade Industrial Development. Isn't that what, wait a minute, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't that what I just read here? Look at this. Where the hell, pardon me, where do you think AI got their information? From Butter's website. See this? Sometimes the Business Journal, outside sources. AI gathers information everywhere. In fact, I will predict that someday your website could be sourced just like our website is sourced. We write a lot of content on our website about business, right? And marketing and SEO and all that. And sometimes, believe it or not, AI, ChatGPT, AI, is sourcing us as a source. You too can be a source. So it ends up, ladies and gentlemen, you're competing with yourself. So if this is true, which it is, and you look at this, West Atlantic, multiple sites in Miami-Dade, just research this, developing your dossier on how to contact them. Then you can use another database. All right, there's many databases out there, and you start building a list of what they're working on. And I know this takes time. How much time do you think that took so far? If I were to tell you to start from scratch, put my stopwatch on and say, go, how much time do you think you've taken so far in doing what I just told you? You can do that in 15 to 20 minutes. You can do this next stage in another 15 if you're interested. And you can get your contacts, and then you can start writing your script. This is all before you pick up the phone. Before you picked up the phone. So once you do that, you prepare your contact strategy. And I'm telling you right now, it's not one phone call. What are you trying to interest yourself with Butters? What are you going to tell them? How are you going to open up your little pitch? We're going to talk about that in a minute. Highlight your expertise can add value. You want to add value, value added, add value to projects, tenant appeal, aesthetically pleasing interiors, whatever you're doing. Examples of what you've already done and how you can help them. Have that written out, but that's not your lead. That's not your lead. And then you start writing your script, and you must write the script. You can't just think about it. Let's think about a script. Don't do that. You're going to lose track. Have a script, but the minute you get on the phone, be prepared to throw that script away. So, for example, pardon me, start with a polite, energetic introduction, right? Hi, this is Jim Nowakowski. I'm calling you because I've been looking at your website, and I have to tell you, Mr. Butters, that's not the, you're going to use the guy's name, right? I have to tell you that not a lot of things that you're doing, I think there might be a play here for where I can help you. One of the things I noticed, and I was researching your company, is that you got this 8-acre site on 77th Avenue, right? Adam Weisman is your senior managing director, and he said, you're not talking to Adam. He said that you're setting up a spec industrial development with new warehouses on that site. What I would like to do is set up a 10-minute phone call with Adam and yourself on what you're doing on that warehouse because I've got some warehouse experience here that some of our suites at in design, and name the project you're working on. See, I can't speak for you because I'm not an architect and I'm not a designer, but I am a phone call guy, right? And that's what you do. You start talking personally about what they're doing, not what you're doing, about what they're doing and how what you did relates to what they're doing. You understand that? That's the whole secret. Now, if you get up to here and the guy says, well, I don't know who you are. I said, oh, I understand that. So, but I did look at you and I think I've got some ideas you'd be interested in. Is it possible to set up a little time? No, I'm busy. So of course we're all busy and I don't want to be a pain in the butt. Talk like that. Talk like you talk. Okay. And if you're in a click, and if you didn't do that, so he hung up, he rejected you. Now what do? Do you cry? No, what do you do? You've learned all about this guy. You've spent, let's say, 2 hours learning about butters. What do you do? What do you do? How many butters are in the world, ladies and gentlemen? How many butters type companies are in the world, do you think? Or what you're looking for, your targets? Are you kidding me? All you got to do is repeat. What do they say? Rinse, repeat, right? Rinse and repeat. Just change butters to the next guy. And it'll take you less time because as you do this, you gain practice. And guess what? Chances are they're doing similar things. Only the names are changed to protect the innocent. I'm telling you right now, right? The phone is a marketing tactic. How you use the phone is a marketing tactic. That hasn't changed in 50 years. I don't know how the phone's been invented, right? I'm sorry. The phone's been invented. But using the phone hasn't changed in 50. What? They still use the phone or they don't use the phone. They're not using the phone enough. I had uh, yesterday one of the people talked that we were trying to find out about a client's specification uh, type of product. And she nailed down the person, the perfect person who called her back. Called her back. She got a wonderful gift. Called her back from last week, Thursday. Left a message, calls back yesterday. And she had a 10-minute conversation. We found out unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable stuff. And you can do the same thing. So you encourage dialogue. What are some of the challenges you're facing in integrated design and functionality in that project? What you're trying to integrate? Don't say it like that. That's the script, right? Look it. I know, Mr. Butters. I know you're facing challenges in trying to integrate that design into the functionality of that warehouse. We all that's a common problem. But what are some of your specific challenges? Do you see what I'm saying? Do you understand? Connect with the needs and so on, and offer the next step, portfolio review. Can I come in and see you? Can I do a Zoom meeting? Can I call further? A lot of your business, like my business, comes in through referral. This is a cold call. This is a cold call. Every call you make, including a referral, is a cold call. When you get the referral and you pick up the phone to call the person being that referred you, not the person who referred you, but the referral target. They don't know you. They just know that so and so recommended you. You still have to prove yourself. It's a step closer than a cold call, but a cold call handled the right way brings you right into the same position of pitching the client. And then you need a follow-up plan. You follow up with emails and phone calls. Sometimes what? But you're persistent, not and respectful, but you don't call every hour. Hi, Mr. Butters, it's me again. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. You follow up focal points, the pain points you've heard, share success stories. Here's a list of things you could do. It's not going to be one phone call. It's not going to be one email if you're going to turn this target. It does work. And be sensitive. We're closing. We're almost out of time, but we'll have time. I'll answer questions in a blog. I know you have questions. I can see them coming in. I was with a president of a major multi-million dollar, many, hundreds of millions of dollars. He was the president, and his wife had just passed away. We were sitting in his office, and I was helping him write the obituary. And the phone rings, and he picks up the phone, and he goes, "Hello, yeah, 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 yeah. No, 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 I'm not interested." So he hung up the phone. The guy was calling from a major company trying to sell him uniforms for his factory workers. Okay, that's what that call was about. How do I know? Well, I asked him. And I asked him. He was in deep depression because his wife had just died, but he took the call. And the jerk on the other end of the line didn't recognize in his voice the pain that he was in. No, no. If you're talking to somebody and they're saying that and you still keep pitching, you're stupid. You're stupid. That guy won't have a chance in hell in selling anything to this guy, to my client. You have to be sensitive because you don't know what situation you're calling into. You have no clue, ladies and gentlemen. You don't have that gift of insight. No one has that. And you don't know what's going on with the person you're calling. They might be involved in a crisis, not just a personal crisis like my executive friend, but also a business crisis. And you can hear it in their voice. So be aware of your surroundings and be aware of theirs. I can tell you're working on something. Don't be afraid to communicate that. And make sure the purpose, like this guy that was trying to sell him uniforms for his factory workers. The minute he said, yeah, so I can tell something's going on. Look let me call you back at a later date because I know something's going on and I don't want to pry. But well, all I'm doing is that I'm selling uniforms for factory workers. I'll get, I know you, I appreciate you taking the call. You're the president of the company, but I'll try to call you at another time. Would that be okay? And he would say yes. He's not going to say no. Power is in your hand. Voice, texting, email, internet. It's all there. It's all there. Siri's there. Ask Siri anything and use your voice. Use your voice. Listen to your customers. Always be closing. Hold everything. Hold time can be horrible, isn't it? What do you do when you're holding? They put you on hold sometimes. Can you hold on 1 second? What do you do? Twiddle your thumbs, whistle? No. Never forget to leave a contact number. Use voicemail. Voicemail is your friend. Hi, this is Jim Nowakowski. I was calling you the other day, and this is my third message. I'm not giving up. I, I saw that blah, 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 and just, leave a voicemail. That does work sometimes. Sometimes people call, and I'm calling to them, and they hang up, right? They hang up. You can hear, I got no time, click. Sometimes if I'm, depending on my mood, I'll call back and I'll say, hello, Mr. So-and-so. I think we were disconnected. What? I thought I was talking to you. No, get out of here. I don't want to talk to you. And then you hang up, but I don't call again. You don't want to be obnoxious. Make judgment calls based on what's going on during the conversation. People form opinions and they make judgments about us in the first 60 seconds they see us. How long do you think it takes to form a judgment on a phone call? Nanoseconds. 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 Hi, how are you? Hello. Nanoseconds. You gotta feel. You look at this one. Call the dead file. You got a dead customer file? Call that file. When's the last time you called the dead file? I went to Arizona calling on a client, and we when I was in direct marketing working for another agency at the time before I started my own business, and I said, "Give us your dead file." And the prospect said, "What's that?" I said, "Well, that's the people you haven't contacted in a while." And the prospect said, "What are you going to do with the dead file?" I said, "I'm going to bring them back to life." What? How are you going to do that? I'm going to call them. What do you mean you're going to call them? I'm going to call them. Yeah, that's why you call them the dead file. You haven't talked to them and you think they're dead, but they're not dead. They're just dormant because you haven't called them. Never failed. Never failed. Never failed. It's easier to talk than write, isn't it? That's why surveys work. Hi, I'm doing a survey on such and such. Listen, I see you're building that warehouse, Mr. Butters. And I was wondering, I'm trying to figure out, I'm an architect. I was just trying to figure out how you approach blah, 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 blah. How you approach the sprinkler system. Are you using a nitrogen generation system? Whatever you're doing, whatever you're talking about. Do a survey. That's how you do that. And oh, by the way, we do that too. Blah, 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 blah. You start a conversation. You start a dialogue. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not a monologue. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's how you say it. I used to teach English, right, for 10 years. And I used to tell my underachieving students, they were underachievers. They believed they couldn't read. They were taught they couldn't read, but I'd never believed that. They were the Billy Badasses of the world, right? It was in a boys' Catholic school. And I used to say, I could make my hand interesting. I could talk about my hand for 5 minutes and make it interesting. And I would be holding up my hand. And they would be looking at me like, what are you talking about? Oh, what are you talking about? Right? What are you talking about? And I would start doing it. And nobody threw anything at me. Not after the first year. But you can make anything interesting. How do you say it? 87% of opinions people form about us on the telephone are based on the tone of our voice. 13% of their opinion of you is based on your actual words. People hear your personality, your manner. You think I'm just sitting here talking to you? I'm motioning with my hands. I'm sweating profusely. No, I'm just kidding. And follow-up calls. Follow-up calls. Remember, not all leads are the same. Not all calls are the same. Every call is an experience. It's a unique opportunity, and everybody's an individual. Everybody. You think this is a typo that I repeated it twice? No, I want to drill it into your heads. Not every call is the same. It's not the same, and that's what makes phone calling so exciting. Sometimes you get hung up on it, and that's a great experience. I hope you didn't get hung up on because you were obnoxious. Each phone call offers you something different. Answering is as important as calling. Unless we treat them individually, we lose opportunities and potential new markets. I learn every time I pick up the phone, either answering it or calling it. I learn something. Well, Jim, I don't believe that. Well, you should believe it. Because I found out the other day, I've got 99 blogs, and most of them are based on phone call. Use it or lose it. I know you have questions. I see a lot of questions. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to blog on questions. So send me, I know you registered for this, so I have your registration details. However, email me, jim@interlinegroup.com if you want to see when I post that blog, or call me at 847-358-4848. Ask, you can set up a consultation. We're ready to talk to you about anything. And thank you so much for your time. I know we spent a little longer than an hour on this, but I do appreciate you very, very much. This has been approved by the NKBA, IDCC, and AIA, so you can get credit. Thank you so much for coming. Follow me, Interline Jim, at Interline Jim on Twitter. I'm a great X guy, rather. And you can look at our blogs on our website. Thank you again and have a great day.